You have a herniated disc, then you should definitely know this. I will now show you with Ina. Ina will demonstrate and I will explain what you should do after a herniated disc. First of all, a certain period of rest is necessary to protect the affected region. A few days, depending on the sensation, or even a week, can be recommended initially, but it should not be too long, otherwise the recovery may be delayed. And this approach, this exercise that I am showing you now, in my opinion, is so gentle that you can definitely do it. If you want to be sure, then ask your doctor for its approval. Lie down carefully, like Ina is doing, and you will notice that when you have your legs raised, you probably won't feel any tension or major pressure in your back. In this position, the hip flexor is relaxed because you see, it is almost a sitting position, and the body is used to it anyway. And from this position, we now look very carefully at what happens when you lower your knees a little, so you slowly extend your legs further and further. Stretch a little, Ina. Go down a little. Stop. Stay here. Feel inside. Do that very, very slowly. Continue doing it until you feel a pull in your back. Also make sure that the lumbar spine stays as close to the ground as possible the whole time. You can do this by pulling your belly button down nicely, and by pulling the belly button down, the back automatically comes down. That reminds me of the alignment, which we always do, if you know what I mean. The chin doesn't matter right now. Let's leave it out for the moment. It is only about the lumbar spine lying on the ground. And if you notice now, in that angle you get a slight pulling in your back, then you stay lying like that for 2-3 minutes, and then you will notice that the pulling becomes less. And if it decreases within these 2-3 minutes, then you go a little further down until it increases again, and then stop. And then the exercise is over. And you can do this exercise several times a day because it is so gentle. And you will notice, because whenever it pulls in your back while you lower your knees a little further, then you notice now you are exactly at the point where the hip flexor is under tension. Let it get used to it, and then continue further. And you just keep doing that for a few days, just like that, until eventually you land on your feet. And remember, the lumbar spine should be on the ground. This is the first release of this excessive tension, which ultimately, in my opinion, led to your herniated disc. When you have your knees down and the lumbar spine is down, then please go ahead and try increasingly to bring your chin down as well. And that is sometimes a bit difficult. That means reach the back of the skull, but in a way that the skull still rests on the ground, and try, while keeping the lumbar spine down, on the ground as much as possible, to bring the chin further towards the larynx. And that straightens your entire spine. And this is therefore again an improvement of your situation, because here in the lumbar spine there is usually too much lordosis, and the hyperextension in the neck is also usually too great. And if you always bring both down nicely, then it will become more similar between both, and it eventually become more normal. When you have worked yourself free to this extent, then you stay lying like that, lumbar spine down, chin toward the throat, and place both hands as far down as possible on the thighs. And now you stay in the position, but pretend as if you want to lift your legs a little, then resist with your hands. This is just a very weak attempt. You are trying to lift. Do you notice, Ina?
Yes.
Then you relax again. And again, you try to lift, then relax again. But the lumbar spine, which is important, remains at the bottom during this process. When you tense a little bit against it, you'll notice that something lifts there, then you stop the exercise. You only do this if you can control it in such a way that you can hold it well when lightly tensed. Normally, you will feel better and better in this process, which takes a few days. And you will increasingly feel that there is nothing wrong with your back. And the feeling of weakness and the feeling of soreness and all of this should decrease significantly. If it's not gone yet, just keep going until you see that everything has calmed down. Because of the injury, it is possible that everything is a bit irritated. And when all of that is cleared up, then you start slowly lying on your back with small elevations with the sacrum on our back saver and slowly working your way up. We'll show that. Please just place this part underneath. Exactly, under the sacrum, not under the back. Very important, under the sacrum. And then you notice, here it is, Ina. When you do this in a slight hyperextension, try it and then stay on it. Feel it. You usually feel the stretch here, thigh towards groin, that may also pull in the back. So essentially, what you initially experienced continues now. When the legs were raised, the back wasn't under tension. When lowering slightly, it came under tension. And now this is the way to continue. Always further around the hip flexor or other hip flexor muscles to normalize and to get used to this length. And a few days later, you might find yourself here, always observing closely what's happening with the tension here. Does it pull the back in? And if you notice it's pulling the back in, you simply stay there. If necessary, you also go a bit lower to make it a bit looser again, and you continue the process further. At some point you will be higher and you will still feel good. And at the latest, when you're as high as Ina is now, that's the maximum size of the back hero or the stack of books you've been piling up, then you're actually in the stretch that we recommend applying for relieving back pain. If you are so flexible and lie on your stomach every evening, then in my opinion, the chance of you ever getting another herniated disc, apart from accidents, is minimal. In my opinion, it will not happen again. You must do it regularly because your whole body will benefit from it. Because with this exercise, we counteract the 90-degree angle in the hip that comes from sitting, and we balance it out. And if you're wondering now what happens next, when everything is fixed up to that point, the next 1, 2, 3 weeks have passed and you feel super good, how to proceed with exercises, then I would recommend starting with the exercise at the wall when the time comes. It's all about pulling the navel back and bringing the groins forward to get out of the hollow back. Exactly the same as what we have already practiced on the ground. That was perhaps also a good preliminary exercise to be able to tackle it. And then you push your groins forward and go into the stretch and overextend further and further. And when you are ready, we also start with strength training. That means from the core, from the hip strength, you now try to push the wall away. Ina, try to push the wall away. Okay, relax again and go further in. That is then the next exercise that I would recommend to you. And you can also move on to doing the hanging exercise, the abdominal exercise on the floor. Then you go into the crawling position, round your lower back, come out of the hollow back, and then let your hips sag with the groins leading the way. And try to stay in a rounded back position for as long as possible, so to avoid going into lordosis. And you do this by also pulling the belly button back up and bringing the groins down there. And these exercises are always held for 2 minutes. The strength training in the exercise would consist of pressing the knees against the floor, then releasing them again, then lowering the groins more, and when you come out after 2 or 2.5 minutes. I recommend you to take the kneeling position and then lean forward with your torso a bit to balance it out nicely, and then stretch everything out again here. And you can also find more videos on other topics here. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell so that you don't miss any videos. Goodbye